Please welcome our host, Executive Chairman, RSA Conference, Hugh Thompson.
Hello. Welcome everybody. I am so excited about this event. It continues what I think about as a celebration of innovation here at RSA Conference. And it's a really interesting use of time because you get to see three companies that are on the bleeding edge of cybersecurity. They're in early stages of their development, and that's what Launchpad is. We are going to give you the opportunity to hear these companies talk about their story, and then we have an amazing group of very seasoned venture capitalists, and we're going to bring you behind the scenes. Like, what happens after these companies perhaps pitch to a venture capitalist? What kind of questions do they ask? How do they think about it? And what you'll see is the whole process end to end. And with that, I would love to kick off by introducing our group of three judges. First, a legend in the space, a returning Launchpad venture capitalist. Please welcome the infamous Enrique Salem. And our second judge, a new judge for this year, an amazingly accomplished venture capitalist. Please welcome founding and managing partner of Conviction Partners, LLC, Sarah Gao. All right, thanks for being here. And finally, an amazingly accomplished investor and entrepreneur and business leader himself. I'd like to welcome up General Partner, Ballistic Ventures, Barmak Meftah. Thanks for being here. Okay. Now, before we get to our startups, I just wanted to have a couple of minutes with this esteemed panel to just get your thoughts and perspectives. What is the state of cybersecurity investing right now for the early stage? What did you see? You know, we have an open call for speakers and for innovators. We had a lot of submissions coming this year. Thank you very much for going through all of those to get to the three that we're going to see today. What did you notice? What are the patterns? Tell us what you're seeing.
You first.
Sir.
Oh, I might have a bias here because I started a fund. I'm a longtime security investor, but I started a fund that's really all about AI. And I hear that's a hot topic.
I heard it too. It's a word on the street, yeah.
But you know, I see a bunch of friends in the audience, and it's fun talking to smart practitioners about this because they both see the opportunity. They're worried about attacker leverage of these new technologies, but they see the opportunity around efficiency, around the talent shortage, around new environments to actually apply these techniques. And then it's actually this has been a very long time issue in security, but it's very hard to figure out what is real. And I think one of the things I'm most interested in as a venture capitalist is from the entrepreneur's perspective, like, do they understand how their product is landing with the customer in terms of real outcomes, and then how noisy it is in the AI landscape today. So I think a huge optimist on actual impact, but very, very noisy space right now.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that.
Let's see, we started a brand new fund, Ballistic Ventures, about 3 years ago, a bunch of cyber operators and entrepreneurs from the past. And basically, how I would characterize cyber is it's a problem that's not going to be solved. So you fight cyber war, you don't necessarily win it. And so there's always been this question of when are we going to solve the cyber problem? And so the good news for all of us is job security is going to be eternal. There's always going to be sort of new threat vectors, attack surfaces expanding every 8 to 10 years with key tech inflection points. And so bigger attack surface, more threat vectors, more adversaries, it's a very unique area where the adversary forces the obsolescence of some of the old security controls. If you look at some of the biggest security companies today, they're reinventions of security controls that were in place, and which doesn't happen in any other area of tech. And so, it's going to be ongoing. The early stages are very active. We look at 700-800 deals a year. I could never think there's going to be that many cyber ideas out there, but it turns out there is. And then the one point I would mention, just to corroborate or amplify what you said, Sarah, is that there's a lot of evolutionary features, but it's still few and far between to find sort of platform vendors that can be sustaining, enduring, and be able to create addressable markets that are north of $400 or $500 million in revenue. And we always try to look for those, and it's really hard to find, but hopefully we'll find a couple of them today.
Barmack, I gotta say, I honestly thought you were gonna throw down a date. Like, people always ask me, when are we gonna solve this cybersecurity?
July 11th, 2006.
You heard it
We'll
here
revisit this. We'll revisit this.
Get it done.
Enrique.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been doing this for a long time, and back in the day, people used to say, "Do you guys write the viruses?" And I'm like,
You
really?
were the CEO of Symantec.
So I'm like, really? Come on. I mean, it's to this point that Barmack was making, is that we have an active opponent, and guess what? They're getting more sophisticated, they're better funded, and quite frankly, there's very few things that they can't compromise if they want to. That's the reality. A well-funded opponent can compromise a business, and so you have to think about every security product, I always say, has a half-life. It has a time when it'll be very capable, and then as it matures and the attackers get more sophisticated, it declines. And so what we always have to think about is the security industry needs to continue to reinvent itself. And what I'm seeing right now is we're at a point where we're seeing every category has a potential to be disrupted. Everything. And I'm excited about that, quite frankly, because we've never been great at a couple of things. One of the things I'm most excited about is I think we are going to be able to remediate threats better than ever before. And I say that because it used to take somebody several days to look at a CVE and think about what they had to do. I think now we're going to be able to do that in minutes, and I think we're going to be able to deploy remediations better than ever. And so I actually think we're at a potential point where security is going to improve. Now, the bad news is the bad guys are going to get better again. But I think there'll be a period of time where we're going to get better. I really believe that.
Can I add something?
Yeah,
to this? I think to both Barmack and Enrique's point, one of the reasons I'm excited to see all of you guys at Launchpad, and I think it's such an important event, is early stage innovation is more important to the industry of security than it is in most areas of technology.
Well said.
Right? Because you have structural change in domains. And then the attacker dynamic of driving innovation. And so it's just, you've got movement at all different layers that's very hard to keep up with as a large ship. But to your point, Barmack, and yours, Enrique, I think this is I do think it's an unwinnable war. You can be winning more and winning less. And I think one of the biggest opportunities, both economically and as a defender, as a practitioner, is you can kind of think of the security industry as half services, half software today, right? The only reason the services number is what it is because that's as much as people can afford, actually, from the defense side. And so one of the biggest opportunities that I see is that you're going to get more ability to do what would have been human talent work at lower cost and more democratization. And of course, we're always interested in the next defensive technology in any particular domain. I think both these guys are, more, as you said, legendary, Hugh, in that I've been on the board of 5 security companies that have been acquired now.
That sounds pretty legendary.
No. But,
really good company.
But I think it's, I think, and across a bunch of different domains, right? Application security, network, cloud, and I think the question is is there enough change that you can build enduring platform businesses that really change the defender dynamic? And I think I'm quite optimistic that's happening now.
That would be great. I mean, having an enduring security company that customers don't have to always replace would be a first, quite frankly. Because I've seen that in 37 years of doing this, it's been hard. But I like Sarah's vision here because from all my friends who are practitioners, what do they tell me repeatedly? I have too many different things I have to deploy and manage. And if we can make improvements towards some better platform plays, I think that would be fantastic.
And you all have made such a good point, and I think we'll see this when we bring up our three entrepreneurs. It is so difficult for a buyer of security to truly differentiate among some of these companies. You mentioned AI. I don't think it's possible to have a company description now that doesn't have AI. The words A or letters A and I next to each other. I think you're banned from some society or something like that. Well, we want to bring up our entrepreneurs, but I first want to just give you a sense of what our venture capitalists have looked for as they've narrowed down the pool of applicants, in which we had a record number of this year, to the three that you're going to see today. The first is, what's the problem that you're trying to solve? Is it important? Is it relevant? Does it have scale? What's the originality and soundness of the intellectual property of the company? Does it differentiate the company? How will the product get to market? That's often missed. You can have a great idea, but if you can't get it out to the market, if you can't get it in the hands of potential buyers, you've got a challenge. And then the last piece, and this is so important, I'm sure all three of our venture capitalists would agree with me, it's the team. Those are the people that are going to make PowerPoint slides turn into, hopefully, a legendary company. So these are the criteria that they looked at to get down to these three that you're going to see today. And I'm sure these are criteria that they're going to be evaluating as we bring up our first group. Now, just to give you an idea of what's about to happen, each of our companies, each of our entrepreneurs will come up. They will have 5 minutes, not as brutal 5 minutes where we have a buzzer and like we do in Innovation Sandbox, a lighter 5 minutes. It could be 5 minutes and 3 seconds, for example. We have some flexibility, and they're going to talk about their company. They're going to try and answer these questions and the criteria, and then we're going to hear from our venture capitalists. We're going to get their feedback. We're going to get their advice. And then, just to warn you all, after that, I am going to ask each of you a question. You, both of you, and maybe not you, are already familiar with this. And it is a very simple yes or no question. Are you in? Now, disclaimer to what "are you in" means, it doesn't mean you're going to invest, you're not committing any dollars, and also RSA Conference and its assigns and its subsidiaries does not, commit and pledge dollars, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But
did that well.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's really meant to say, if you had this conversation, would you want to have another conversation with this company? Was it interesting enough for that to be the case? Okay. I'd like to welcome up our first company, Culminate, and Diane Lin, CEO and co-founder, with the tagline of the company, "No alert left behind," with our AI. There you go. AI.
Oh no.
With our
it's a company.
with our AI expert investigators. Please welcome. Hi, thanks so much. Thanks for being here. Right. Please, your 5 minutes begins.
Imagine when you arrive at your hotel room, your key card is not working. That's actually what happened to MGM and Caesar customers last September due to the Scattered Spider attack. When the incident response team comes in, they were able to recover the incident timeline from alerts and logs. Then the question is, why those alerts were not investigated earlier? Most organizations, especially mid-sized and small companies, have under-resourced in-house SOC team. That's contribute to the low quality and low speed investigation. Existing solutions like a SOC can only automate the basic workflow, with rigid playbook and cannot adapt to the ever-evolving attack landscape. Here at Culminate, we build AI investigator that automate your entire L1 triage with expert quality and hyper speed. Now, let me walk you through a case study to illustrate how we could stop attacks in their tracks with investigation in minutes. The attack we simulate is similar to the scheduled spider attack in the cloud. The alert trigger says S3 bucket logging being disabled. This is a low severity alert, typically overlooked by human beings. But our AI investigator covers each and every alert as if it was critical. Now let's follow its auto investigation flow. First, it auto-generates a list of the actions based on the subject and object involved in the alert. It then executes each step in the plan and retrieves the answers. From the results it retrieved, it discovered there's another user involved in this attack who actually created the access key for the initial user who triggered the alert. And this is where the pivoting happens. It has to replan and figure out how do we investigate about this new user. We apply AI-based log comprehension to extract new insight about what has happened. Upon reading the log, it figured out this is actually the major actor who has done most of the malicious activity. By this point, it's pretty clear this user has been compromised. Now the next question is, how did attacker comes in? Was it from SSO or endpoint? To answer this question, it needed other data sources. Upon log comprehension, it realized it was from SSO with the finding in the Okta with push fatigue. At the end, it generated a report with an auto-constrained timeline for human beings to consume. And in this timeline, only the events before last was given in the alert. All the other 6 events were actually hidden in the sea of logs and has to be rediscovered during investigation. I forgot to mention that our design partner actually tell us if they have had our AI investigator for this case, it could have stopped attack minutes after alerts before it progressed to the data asset filtration, which caused further damage. Also, it would take them days to investigate such attack because the scope involved more than one user and it required domain expertise in cloud and EDR. As you can see, our AI investigator behave pretty much like human beings. It interacts with all different data sources and retrieve the answers. To do that effectively, it has 2 critical components. One is the planning like agents. The other is log comprehension. Here we had a pattern padding technology that innovate beyond LM. In particular, in the case of planning, we have adaptive reasoning over security knowledge. It can plan more robust than LM, especially when the sequence of action getting longer. Similarly, for the log comprehension, it avoids hallucination. Our entire team is built around bringing AI expertise with security knowledge. My co-founder Rex has been a security expert, MITRE ATT&CK contributor, multiple products 0 to 1 at startup acquired by Cisco, Epson Cyber, and latest at Lacework. He and other team members have investigated tons of instances, including those nation-state attacks. And myself, coming from AI background, a robotics startup acquired by Google DeepMind, and later at Zscaler, me and my other experts encode the domain expertise into AI to make it effectively. So that's us, Culminate, no alert left behind with AI investigator. Would love to talk to you.
Wow, right on time, too. Terrific. That's great. And I'd like to now turn it over to our judges and for questions. Enrique.
Sure. So first of all, we're rooting for you. We want you to succeed, right? This has been an age-old problem that there's not enough people in the SOC, and quite frankly, it's a thankless job, as many people know. So we really want you to win. Now, if you think about that, some of the challenges that they face is the complexity of what is the alerts they need to spend time on? So if you've got, call it, hundreds of events coming in, how do you decide which are the ones that need to be prioritized and focused on? Or do you look at everything?
Right, so the quick answer is we look everything, but the outcome of investigation, it depends on finding. It tells them what to focus on, what to put aside, especially majority are false alarm. That's where we save time for our customers.
So getting rid of the false positives.
Exactly, yeah.
Fantastic, great.
Right. Sarah?
How do you expect to prove to customers that this works? Like, what does a POC look like?
Right, that's a good question. So there are two types. One is the false positive one, right? That's where the benefit saving in the time. The other part is that the true positive. They wonder whether we can discover the attack. And for many customers where at this point in time, maybe there's no attack, so we simulate attack so to see whether we can catch. And also we invite the red team to do simulation of the attack, so to prove that our technology can detect those attacks, at the same time put aside the noise they can ignore. In those noise we put aside, there's no attack involved.
And my question revolves around what markets. So if you look at sort of the big enterprises, they've invested heavily in various SIM technologies, SOAR technologies, and if you look at any of those vendors, they're pushing up to AI, sort of AIify their stuff, right? So, and there's this kind of new gen version of them coming to the market that use LLMs essentially to automate and create a virtual SOC analyst, which is what you're doing. Do you sort of anticipate removing those incumbents, and this becomes kind of the new way of doing SIM SOAR, or do you go after a market segment that those guys don't play in, that's an available segment that you can go after? Do you kind of anticipate doing both?
Right. That's a good question. So initially, we are not replacing SIM or SIM part. So originally we focused on alert investigation, but eventually you can see that our investigation essentially is shift right on detection and shift left on the instant response. We can go both sides. Yeah, so does that answer your question?
Yeah, so your aspiration is to be a layer on top of EDR, SIM, et cetera, get all the data and really automate incident response initially. And when that happens, you're hoping that you can sort of elbow the other guys out eventually and sort of become the whole stack, right?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, and also add on that was, as you said, there's a lot of AI for SOC, right? So a lot of them was Copilot. And so here we are more autopilot because we can automatically doing the planning. The Copilot needs human hand holding. You tell them once, and then you can keep waiting there. But autopilot always go complete a task for you to review.
It's an awesome endeavor. To your point, Sarah, this is all about efficiency and freeing up human capital resources to do high-grade work as opposed to doing these things. So,
how far can you take? How far can you take the? Once I process an event or an alert, how far can you go to the remediation?
Yeah, that's a very good point. So the remediation is also a recipe you need to learn. So our robot continues learning about investigation, also learning about remediation. Also for different customer environment, there's different strategy about remediation preference. So that's where our bot actually learned from the customer's environment. So learn from the instruction also very efficiently. Just one feedback, it will learn and remember that applying.
Great, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? No? All set. Now is my favorite part, I think, of Launchpad. Typically, if an entrepreneur comes in, especially to such an esteemed group of venture capitalists, you would have some questions like you did now, but then the feedback is almost binary, right? It's like, hey, we want you to come back. We don't want you to come back for the meeting. We want to open those oak doors, right? Is it oak in your office? I haven't been to your office. Glass, okay.
New firm,
we'll
it's
take
like
it.
plastic.
Okay. Plastic, oh my gosh, okay.
PVC
All right,
pipe.
never mind. All right,
Yeah.
let me keep my visual. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining Barmack, for example, smoking a cigar. I don't know.
That was not the right move for the cigars.
I don't know. This is just what I have in my mind. Anyway, okay, forget the scene setting. Barmack then is talking to his fellow colleagues, and Barmack, I'm going to ask you, what advice would you give to Culminate, based on the questions, based on the presentation?
Yeah, I would be purposeful about the market segment you go after. I think there's going to be some friction you're going to run into in the big enterprises where they've made these investments, and again, I think a lot of the incumbents are going to claim automated incident response. And AlienVault, my former company, the success we found was taking a lot of what Splunk had done up market to the SMB segment and mid market. That was kind of an available market. And efficiency really means a lot to that market segment because they don't have the affordability, the human capital resources to do things that these big enterprises do. So I'd suspect in the mid-market enterprise, you're going to find better success initially, and then hopefully you get that footprint and then move up from there. Be one advice I'd give you. Yeah.
So now, Barmac, I'm going to put you on the hot seat. Are you in?
I'm in.
Whoa, okay.
Right.
Amazing. No pressure, Sarah. Sarah, are you in?
In.
Whoa, okay. This is pretty amazing. This guy's tough. That guy's tough. Okay. Enrique, are you in?
Absolutely, and I'm rooting for you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Good. Please, one more round of applause. Amazing. Thank you so much. Three yes?
Yeah, because
Okay. Well,
All
we
love.
want her to win.
great.
Look,
Yeah.
I mean,
All love.
we all want her
That's
to win.
awesome. Okay, it's a lot of love. All right. Our next contestant is Gnostic, enabling organizations to accelerate LLM adoption without compromise. Please welcome to the stage CEO of Gnostic, Gadi Evron. Thanks so much. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Your time begins now.
Hello, I'm Gadi, and I'm CEO and co-founder of Gnostic, and we're building identity and access management for the LLM age. Enterprises are rapidly adopting enterprise search, meaning take the power of ChatGPT, but use it on your own institutional knowledge. Defragment enterprise data, but they're running into a wall. On the left here, you can see a marketing intern asking a simple question of enterprise search. Hey, what is this quarter's sales revenue? And they're getting the exact same answer as the CEO would, or the CFO would, 230 million. On the right, we are introducing access controls, a need-to-know control, and we are saying, stop. I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. This is company confidential. If you want, you can click request and escalate this to your manager so you can maybe get the full answer. But this is already valuable, but we are essentially doing the usual thing in security. We're being the Department of No, N-O, but we can be the Department of No, K-N-O-W. LLMs actually allow us to do better. We can personalize, we can curate an answer within your need-to-know boundaries to give you an answer that gives you value right now. Hey, I'm sorry, I can't do that. This is company confidential, but you know what? Marketing campaigns A and C actually contributed the most to sales in this coming quarter. I would like to ask for your forbearance for a minute to take you through a conceptual breakthrough that helped us lead to this. This is the DIKW pyramid, data, information, knowledge, and wisdom, where if we replace the words ChatGPT or AI with knowledge, we can actually learn from what we have done in the past in the enterprise with data and information. So let's just pick word pairings. What comes with data? Data security, data privacy, data management, data governance, data provenance, data engineering, data pipelines, I said already, right? So let's assume, and we can check, that most of these words would actually fit with information as well. So let's learn from that. What comes with knowledge? What is knowledge classification? What is knowledge privacy? We could actually predict there was going to be a knowledge quality issue, and now we know what it is, hallucinations. So we're security people, and we said, what is knowledge security? What is AI security? In AI security, knowledge security starts from access control. So what did we do in data? We used specific records, specific files. With information, we looked at classification, patterns, labels, tagging. With knowledge, this is actually all about context. Users need to know. So what do we do? How do we go about this? We squeeze in the pyramid. We train, we fine-tune our models on less data, on less information. So we're building specific LLMs for, let's assume, just for HR, only for finance. We're reducing the dots there are to connect. We're removing the power of LLMs. Now, we're doing this because we have a trade-off between harm and utility. Utility is reduced, but harm actually isn't. This is a false trade-off. There is always, even if we solve permissions, which we haven't been able to solve permissions for the past 30 years, there is always a file with salary information in the wrong folder. There is always a presenter note somewhere in the PowerPoint with classified information. For a knowledge level control, for a knowledge level capability, we need a knowledge level control. We need to be able to let the organization connect the dots. So how do we go about this? On my right, we can see, sorry, my left actually, there we go, the other right, we can see that we are profiling the output coming out of LLMs. And this is not just Microsoft Copilot. It's not just Glean or open source projects. There are many SaaS platforms out there. Salesforce, Atlassian Intelligence. We're taking that output, and then on the other end, we are profiling the user. We're starting with IGA tools, Active Directory, HR systems, and then using our own need-to-know capabilities to understand what is the actual need-to-know for the user. We combine them, we reconcile them into access control, saying yes or no. Should the user get this answer, which is already very powerful. But with the Department of Know, KNOW, we can curate, personalized in your context, to give you an answer. I would like to take a moment beyond this control plane that we're introducing to talk about go-to-market very quickly. We have spoken to over 300 executives, most of them CISOs, some CDOs, some CIOs, and about every other one said they've already made a strategic decision to introduce such search capabilities in the enterprise. We have 150 customers in various discovery phases, coming up to $20 million in our pipeline. We have 10 design partners, including for Fortune 10. And we have a lot of opportunities, such as, for example, OEM, where we can actually be the need-to-know control for the various platforms and SaaS providers. Thank you very much for your time. We are raising. We would love to speak with you. We are building identity and access management for the LLM age. Thank you.
Terrific. Oh, it's a time, too. Yeah, fantastic.
By the way, he's one of the few people that's taller than you, Hugh. Gotti's.
That is true. I had better
Are you calling me
nutrition.
fit, sir?
No, taller.
Height. Sarah,
Yes, sir.
the first question.
Yeah. As you say, permissions unsolved for 25, 30 years, very hard problem. And one could argue cloud world, services world, like the permissions problem is the whole problem, actually. Not that our access controls are perfect today, but they are deterministic. If you are learning policies, how do I, as a practitioner or customer, get comfortable that it works and it's right?
You get comfortable because you can actually see it working. Mm-hmm. There are several levels of policies if to go that route. You have the company level policy, you have the department level policy, the role level policy, which are still deterministic to a degree. But you can also learn from the actual activity of the user. What are they accessing? What should they access? And it's all about proof of value. We walk into a customer and we say, please ask the question, and then we show them, hey, look at the other side of this and see what we return with us. But honestly, one of our go-to-market capabilities is an assessment, just a readiness assessment. We come into the customer and say, hey, let's ask some questions of your LLM, map out the exposure, and see what data shouldn't be there. And already they can very quickly see the value. And then when they ask the question, they can see they're actually getting the right results.
Can I ask maybe I'm
Yeah,
going
no,
out of
go
order.
for it.
But on this, how long does it take from when somebody deploys Gnostic to that you actually have learned what the access control should be? Sorry, I'm just trying to follow up on the question that Sarah was asking, Gotti, because you said it's learning what should be accessed. So let's say I go in, you just got deployed, and I say, what's the revenue for the company the day you just got deployed? And I shouldn't have access to that. What's the period that you would be able to get the, you know what, Enrique shouldn't, and Sarah, who's the CEO, should? What's that period does it take to learn that level of access control?
So we have 3 stages. The first one, as we mentioned, we're going in and our ICP is also limited to enterprises over 5,000 employees.
Yep.
So these organizations already have IGA systems, HR systems, Active Directory, all the rest of this. So it's not perfect, but it's a good place to start. So we pretty quickly ingest all of that. Then we proceed to get access, for example, to their drive, to the email, depending on the company and what they want. And that takes about a week, and we're ready.
So your source of truth is the IGA system or the Active Directory?
That's just a way to build a baseline.
I see.
The source of truth is that we access, and for example, as I said, the drive and other activities from the user, and we say, what are they actually accessing? What is their actual need-to-know boundary?
Got it. Thank you.
And I guess back to the incumbent question, unfortunately, because there's so many companies out there. So there's a new class of Auth-Z companies out that essentially sort of do on-demand authorization for fine-grained access control. You can imagine this being a feature or blade of what they offer, which is very AI-specific, which they say, look, typically authorization has been access of a human being to an IT asset. And the problem has been in the past is there's a propagation delay where those maps become obsolete because an employee quits or changes jobs, but the authorization levels don't change. There's a class of companies that kind of do on-demand authorization now, and so you can extend that capability to include AI. Do you imagine this being offered as an API to plug into an existing authorization platform? Do you imagine this being unto itself a platform for AI authorization only?
I imagine both,
Okay.
but I would like to one-up that and say, let's assume everybody now, and everybody is going to need to, develops this capability of knowledge level authorization, right, on the semantic layer. That's pretty good. But is an enterprise going to be able to give access, not to mention manage policies centrally, for dozens of these systems, or even 3 or 4 of them? So our ability to be a sort of Okta for authorization is what we're looking at. This
Got it. And do you redact, is it only limited to a role-based and entitlement-based authorization to interact with the LLMs, or do you redact data? You say, look, like for instance, if somebody in HR asks what's the annual revenues of a company and they shouldn't be entitled to that, they can still ask the question of the LLM, get the results back, but it'll be redacted elements, or is that?
Short answer, yes, but I would like to replace the word redacted with shaped or paraphrased.
Okay.
And I'll give you a simple example. When we talked about sales, there is nothing to redact. It's 230 million.
Right.
Meaning there is a conversation in the background asking questions about marketing as the question is being asked. So we are shaping that, but where we can, we absolutely redact.
Roger that.
Any other questions? Okay. Thanks very much. So now I'm going to try a different set of imagery. No oak doors. We're in Enrique's shop. You hear the hydraulic sounds of a very thick set of pieces of glass.
He's calming me down. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do that.
The hiss.
The hiss as they come together. Maybe some smoke for a fact, only for a fact, not utility. And Enrique presses a button, it frosts automatically.
That's pretty cool.
And yeah.
Can I come work out of this office?
Right?
Yeah, so, okay, all right.
Nice view of the bay.
Are
you guys
trying
hiring
things out? Okay. Enrique, now that you're in your frosted room, what advice would you give to Gnostic?
Yeah, the way I think about this problem is access control has always been hard. People are going to want to know that it is accurate and works when they go through the proof of concept or proof of value. The value will become clear, and so my recommendation would be, don't come into the organization and say, let me look at all of your enterprise data. Pick a subset of data that they can apply Gnostic to. Again, don't try to conquer everything at once inside of the enterprise. Of course, that's what you want, but I would try to start with a set of data that you can say, hey, let me just show you how it works on this specific box drive or whatever they have, and that it works accurately. Because if you get them to go through a POC that says you got to connect to everything, I think that will slow you down a lot. So I'd rather be a little more targeted in what you're applying Gnostic to initially. That would be my recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay. And now, of course, the critical question. Enrique Salem, are you in?
Yes, I'm in.
Amazing.
Then.
No hesitation.
No hesitation. Sarah Gao, are you in?
I'm in.
What?
Brilliant.
I like it.
This guy looks a little unpredictable. Okay, good. Barmac, are you in?
I love this area so much that although we have a couple of companies that might compete with you, I'm going to squint my eyes and say I'm in for a second.
That's $10 million right there.
Nice job, Gotti.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you to RSA Conference for having us, and thank you to the judges.
Oh,
Good job,
great.
guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All
right.
Awesome. Wow. These are generous today. This is good. This is good. Okay. Our third contestant. Turn your CNAP into action with AI-powered, expert-driven cloud security. Please welcome to the stage co-founder and CEO of Tamnoon, Marina Segal. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. Your time begins now.
Cloud security is challenging. Let's face it, we are failing at reducing the number of cloud breaches. Even though we have all the technology that we need to get control over our cloud security, just walk this expo hall. There are thousands of products. Still, the number of attacks is growing exponentially. So do we need another product to solve our challenges in cloud security? I don't believe so. What we really need is to be able to make those products functional and operational. That is why Tamnoon is not yet another product. Tamnoon is managed service powered by AI platform that is human-centric AI, not just a regular one, that ingests all of those different alerts across all of the CNAP tools, native and not native, optimizing, tuning the tools, prioritizing and triaging using business context of each and every customer, surfacing the right task to the right owner at the right time. We perform simulation of the impact because we believe that safe remediation is the way to go about it. And then we enable scalable remediation flows. And in order to shrink the backlogs and not only just deal with the backlogs, we're also enabling preventative controls, either cloud native or our homegrown. This way, we're enabling cloud security teams to take control and make those tools operational. Imagine having this 100x team available for you to scale your cloud operations with powerful technology that learns your environments at all times. A typical day of our customer would include us ingesting all of the alerts across all of the vendors that are being used, prioritizing them using business context that can be programmatic or non-programmatic. We will create tasks that include all of those alerts that's supposed to be fixed together for effective remediation, assign those tasks to the right owner, in this case, Gali, and adding all of the business context that is needed, such as crown jewels analysis, compliance and regulatory inputs, understanding of data classification, and so on. We will triage and perform impact analysis in order to create tailored playbook that is precise for the environment of each and every customer. This playbook will be used by Gali in order to scale remediation. It was already supervised and curated by humans. The last step would be enabling our prevention, which will allow us to shrink the backlogs. It can be cloud native or our patent pending technology. This is the process that works for our customers in order to solve thousands of alerts on a daily basis. Tamnoon is being built by the best experts in the CNAP space. We've been there even before we had all of those acronyms. And we're already serving large enterprises with the solution that is tailored towards enormous market. Sarah just mentioned each product gets service at the same amount of money. So enormous market. And the cost-effective solution that we are building, producing 80% of gross margins. Thank you for listening. Please visit us at tamnoon.io and watch our demo.
That was a power move. You left 1 minute
Exactly.
on the table. Yeah,
I'm
very
giving the time back.
impressive. Okay. Questions? Armin?
Yeah, first of all, great to see you again, Marina. I want to say for the audience, one of the best entrepreneurs I've met. I've been talking to Marina for a while, so awesome.
I think he's going to be in.
Thank you.
This is a prediction.
It's an incredible space. It's as you know, Jam. There's a lot of vendors out there in this CDR and CNDR space, and so I guess kind of two-part question. First would be, I love your approach on a tech-enabled service because when it comes to remediation, it's really hard to automate it fully. In the end, you need a human being in the middle that is going to say this is good, this is not accepted, what have you, and you guys provide that, which is good. Keep an eye on the gross margins because as you introduce human skill, then that becomes a big issue, what have you. But I guess that kind of the main thing would be, with Wiz acquiring Jam, you sort of have a class of CSPM, CNAP vendors that this becomes a feature for them in terms of what they have to do to remediate. And then you have your old school MDR vendors, which have to get in the cloud space to do detection and remediation. And so do you sort of anticipate going to market with them as an adjunct, or do you anticipate this becoming its own buying cycle where the CISOs are specifically spending money on this?
Thank you for the question. Today we are going to the market directly and with CNAPs. We believe that enabling their customer success teams is the way to go about approaching the joint customers. Adding more functionality to the CNAP platform, with CDR being added, they would need to approach both SOC teams and cloud security teams. Mm-hmm. And while SOC team knows how to work with MDRs, cloud security teams, they need their own technology and experts to help them solve the problems in the prevention space and protection space, because the problem space is very different between the two.
Makes good sense. Appreciate it.
One of the things I think a lot about is the maturity of the security organization that Tamnoon will sell into. So where do you want to go? What segment of the market do you think is the first place, and what's the kind of profile of the target companies?
So our ICP is large enterprises and the larger side of the SMBs. We are targeting companies that are less techy in their nature, so basically companies that either are migrating to the cloud or already running both legacy and cloud in parallel. Those who are struggling to hire talent and retain talent, especially in the industries such as manufacturing, utilities, entertainment, education, healthcare, regulated industries mostly.
Yeah, I think the challenge you're always going to face is a little bit of the bigger companies, in that higher end of the enterprise. They've invested a lot in what processes they are going to use. And I'd suggest that you really do think about kind of the upper mid-market, lower end of the enterprise, instead of going after the biggest companies initially, and get some great traction, and then try to go up market.
Thank you.
One thing we started discussing before all the great companies started presenting is just this sort of continual cycle of innovation and consolidation, right? And so on a 5-year basis, I think you see CNAP vendors expanding scope, and you see EDR, MDR vendors expanding scope. How do you think about what Tamnoon is, 5 years from now, and how it fits into that landscape? Because it's not clear to me from an architect, and nobody's got a perfect architecture, so this may just be a perennial problem. It's not clear to me that you want to do remediation in a domain-specific way, and then also have a consolidation layer. And it's also not clear to me you want to have multiple CNAPs. So, I think your solution makes a ton of sense when you have these multiple data sources, and you're consolidating at the cloud layer. But maybe you see it differently.
So I'll start with the last question and answer the first. We surprisingly seeing a lot of companies who have multi-CNAP solutions, either because of adopting from first generation of CNAPs to the second generation of CNAPs, using multi-clouds, mergers and acquisitions, political tensions in the companies. There are different reasons for the companies to use different tools. Over time, I believe that it will consolidate. Our vision is to serve cloud infrastructure space with remediation and response solutions. And the fact that we are focusing on cloud infrastructure is for a reason, because we believe that this part can be served perfectly with managed services, unlike the application security, for example, where I cannot claim that I can tell developer who wrote the code how to fix it. if that makes sense. So cloud infrastructure, cloud production environments, that is our focus.
Okay, great. We'll leave it there for questions. And now, Sarah enters the private elevator that is in her office. She ascends to the helipad at the top of the building.
Misunderstanding of a startup fund. I like the aspirational visual here. Yeah.
The soundproof doors
left the
of the
girl at
helicopter
helipad.
close. Okay. Sarah, what is your advice to Tamnoon?
Yeah, I think one of the things, great entrepreneur, like I'm sure long-term ambitious, one of the things just going back to Enrique's point of view was just like being clear about what an entry customer segment is, and then what that customer's decisions over time would be, and like how they think about, like, we're all startup investors, but we interact with the large embedded incumbent vendors that are very important to enterprise customers a lot, right? And so I think the number one thing is making sure that you feel, I think this sounds like a very useful service, but making sure you feel like there's a durable position that will make sense to customers in the long run if there is consolidation.
And now, the question. Sarah Gao, are you in?
I think it's a really good space, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey.
I think I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway, based on your initial comment. Barman.
It's not
I
even
love
letting
this
you
space.
finish.
In.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I didn't
squared.
even need to ask.
Double.
Didn't even ask. Double in. Enrique Salem, are you in?
Absolutely. Clear need. We want you to win.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Wow. This may be unprecedented. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, please, one more round of applause to all of our entrepreneurs. I know they make it look easy, but it's actually incredibly stressful to come up on the stage and talk about something you're pouring a lot of your life and heart and soul into. So amazing, amazing job. I would also like to thank our incredible investors. Thank you so much.
Thank you, too.
I know you had a really hard job this year. There were a massive number of submissions, and thanks so much for culling it down to this excellent group of companies that we see here. RSA Conference is committed to innovation. I think what you'll find throughout the week is innovation-oriented programming everywhere. And so tonight, there will be our early stage expo. That'll be just over there. And it should have been 60 companies that will be there, but unfortunately, or fortunately, 2 of the 60 got acquired in just the last 3 weeks. So we'll have 58 companies that are there. We'll see by the end of the day, maybe 57, that will be there. Very, very innovative and very diverse. I think you're going to get a real sense of some of the cutting edge things that are coming in cybersecurity. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks again to our judges. Thanks again to our amazing entrepreneurs, and looking forward to seeing you throughout the week. Thank you very much.